He came on in a 3-0 game. Nothing to lose, the crowd was relaxed, the result was done, the pressure was completely off, and he still got a 2 out of 10. Let that sit. For a second, just let that sit. Because while that was happening, on the other side of this story, Arsenal just went 6 points clear of Manchester City. 6 points. Same match, same afternoon, 2 completely different realities playing out at the same time. And I think that tension, that strange, uncomfortable contrast, is actually the most important thing to talk about today. Not just the result, not just the goals, but what this game actually revealed about where Arsenal are right now, what it confirmed, and what it quietly buried. Because today didn't just feel like a win, it felt like a verdict. By the way, I'm Amelia. If you're new here, we break down Arsenal properly on this channel. The tactics, the decisions, the things that actually matter. So if that sounds like your kind of place, subscribe. It means a lot, and it helps this channel keep going. And before we go any further, I genuinely want to hear from you today. Do you think Gabriel Jesus has a future at Arsenal? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm reading all of them. This is going to be a big discussion. Okay, let's get into it. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't expect to feel this conflicted after a 3-0 home win. Like 3 goals, clean sheet, 6 points clear. That should feel straightforward. That should feel like celebration. And parts of it absolutely did. But watching that second half, watching certain moments unfold, I felt this strange unease sitting underneath all the excitement. And I've been trying to figure out exactly what that feeling was. I think it was this. Today showed us the best of Arsenal. And in doing so, it also showed us exactly how far certain players are from that level. And that gap, that distance, is something Arsenal are going to have to deal with. Not in a vague future planning kind of way. Right now, this summer, because the decisions being made in the next few months could define the next 3 seasons of this club. So let's slow this down properly. Let's actually think about what happened today. Start with the first half, because it was something else. When Bukayo Saka came out for that starting lineup, I'm not going to pretend I wasn't nervous. We've been so careful with him. He's been away for weeks. There was real pressure to not rush him back. And here he is, starting against Fulham. And you're thinking, okay, is he actually ready for this? Or is Arteta gambling? Within about 15 minutes, that question had been completely answered. The moment Saka sat Jimenez on his backside and delivered that cross, that wasn't a player easing himself back in. That was a player arriving, fully, completely. That was Saka saying, I'm back. And I've brought everything with me. The cross was perfect, low, pace, exactly where it needed to be. And Gyökeres was there. Right place, right time. Taps it in. 1-0. Now, think about what that moment represented, because it wasn't just a goal. It was the connection between those 2 players, finally playing out in real time. We've talked about this combination so many times since Gyökeres signed. The idea that Saka's ability to beat his man and deliver into the box, combined with a striker who actually arrives into spaces, was going to be lethal. And today, we saw it, properly. For the first time with both of them in full flow, together. And that should genuinely excite you. Because if Arsenal make this run-in, if they actually win this title, that partnership is going to be central to it. But here's the question I keep coming back to. Where has this been? Seriously, where has this version of Arsenal been for the last 2 months? Because we've watched some performances this season that have been genuinely painful, slow, nervous, lacking ideas. And then today happens, and it looks like this. Fluid, fast, clinical, confident, and you want to shake someone and say, why wasn't this happening in February? I don't have a clean answer to that. I don't think anyone does, honestly. But I think part of it is Saka. I think his presence, the threat he carries, the way defenders have to respect him, changes the entire geometry of how Arsenal can play. When he's not there, teams can shift their defensive shape in a way that compresses Arsenal's options. When he's there, everything opens up slightly differently. And today you could see that clearly. That's both an enormous positive and a real concern. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about someone who I think is the most interesting story coming out of this game. And it's not Gyökeres, and it's not Saka. It's Lewis-Skelly. His first Premier League start in midfield, rated 9 out of 10. And when I say that rating is deserved, I really mean it. What struck me watching him wasn't just the physical stuff, the driving runs, the directness, the energy. What struck me was the decision-making, the one-touch passing, the understanding of when to move the ball early and when to carry it. That's not something you can just switch on. That's football intelligence. And for someone making his first league start in that position, it was staggering. There was a moment, I don't know if you noticed it, where he received the ball under a little pressure in midfield. And instead of playing the safe pass sideways or backwards, he turned and immediately drove into space, committed to it, no hesitation, and it worked. And that single moment told me something important about this kid's mentality. He doesn't play scared, he plays forward. And now here's the thing I want you to really think about. Because Declan Rice dropping into that deeper anchor role, that wasn't random. I think Arteta is building something here. Rice as the controller, the organizer, the one who sits and protects. And then you have players like Lewis-Skelly given the license to get beyond the midfield line, to arrive into spaces, to be an unexpected runner. That combination worked today. It worked really well. So now what? Does Lewis-Skelly start the next game? Does he keep that spot? Because there are players, experienced players, expensive players, who are going to have to look at what he produced today and understand that the competition just got very real, very quickly. And I think that's a genuinely exciting problem for Arteta to have. A young player who costs nothing, emerging at exactly the right moment. That's what elite clubs do. They find answers from within when they need them most. But let's hold this thought for a second, because there's another side to today's story, and it's much less comfortable. Right, let's talk about it. Gabriel Jesus. I want to be fair here. I want to think this through properly, not just pile on, because it's easy to be harsh about a substitute's cameo in a game that's already won. Context matters, but this isn't about one bad sub appearance. This is about a pattern. And today added a data point to that pattern that I genuinely cannot ignore. He came on in the second half. Arsenal were 3-0 up. Fulham were not pressing hard. The game was completely open. There were spaces, there were chances developing. The pressure was zero. And in that environment, in what should have been the easiest possible 20 minutes of football, the word the reporter used to describe his performance was lacking effort. Not lacking quality, not unlucky, not rusty, lacking effort. That's a different conversation. That's not a tactical problem, that's a professional problem. And I want to sit with that for a moment, because I don't think we should rush past it. Gabriel Jesus is 27 years old. He's been at this club since 2022. He's been through injuries. He's been through different systems. He's had his good moments. There were patches in his first season where he looked like exactly what Arsenal needed. But when you look at the full picture, the consistency, the impact, the moments when the team genuinely needed him, has he delivered? I think the honest answer is not enough. And now Gyökeres is here. And Gyökeres is operating at a completely different level. 2 goals today, an assist. Hold-up play that the ratings described as reaching a different height. He's not just performing, he's growing. Week by week, he seems to be finding a higher gear. So what is Jesus' role? What is his function within this squad? Because if he's the backup striker, fine. Every team needs cover. But backup strikers still need to train at a high level, still need to be ready when called upon, still need to show that competitive drive that keeps a squad sharp. And what we've seen from him when he comes on, the offsides, the poor touches, and today, the lack of effort, paints a really troubling picture. Here's my honest opinion, and I mean this seriously, not as a hot take. I think Gabriel Jesus' time at Arsenal is coming to an end. And I think the club knows it. I think this summer there are going to be serious conversations about what to do with him, whether another club might take him, give him a fresh start, a chance to rebuild. Because keeping him as he is, unmotivated, unable to impact games from the bench, serves nobody. Not him, not Arsenal, not the squad culture. Harsh? Maybe. But I think it's true. And I think today confirmed it, more loudly than any game this season. But now, and this is important, let's zoom out. Because in focusing on Jesus, we can't lose sight of what today actually means for Arsenal's season. And what it means is enormous. 6 points clear of Manchester City. 6 points with 6 games to go. That is not a comfortable gap, not in the Premier League, not when City are City, and Arsenal know better than anyone how painful near misses feel. But it is a gap that Arsenal are now controlling. And the pressure, the psychological pressure, has shifted. City now have to win. They have to keep winning. They can't afford slips. And Arsenal, after today, have a margin that gives them just a little room to breathe. But here's where I want to challenge my own optimism for a second, because I think it's important to be honest. Arsenal have been here before. Not exactly here, not with this particular gap at this particular point, but the feeling of being close, of the title being within reach, that's not new for this fan base, and it's ended in heartbreak before. So the question I keep asking myself is this: is this Arsenal different? Is this squad, this group, capable of finishing the job in a way that previous versions haven't been? And today, I actually think the answer is yes. Here's why. The performance against Fulham wasn't just about goals. It wasn't just about ratings and statistics. It was about the way Arsenal played, the confidence, the directness, the willingness to take risks. Saka beating his man and crossing first time. Lewis-Skelly driving forward without hesitation. Gyökeres holding the ball under pressure back to goal and setting teammates free. These are the actions of a team that believes. And belief in the final weeks of a title race is everything. Let me bring it back to something I mentioned earlier, the thing I said I'd return to, the dependency on Saka. Because as brilliant as he was today, and he was brilliant, let's not understate it, the cross for the first goal was elite. His finish for the second was exactly what we've been missing from him all season. The worry underneath all of that is simple. What happens if he gets hurt again? Not because I think he will, not because I'm being pessimistic, but because the Premier League is brutal. 60-plus games a season. Players get tired, muscles get tight, challenges go in. And when you watch today, when you see how different Arsenal's entire rhythm is with Saka in that right side, you have to ask the question, can Arsenal win the title without him, if it came to it? I genuinely don't know. And that uncertainty is something that lives under all the optimism I'm feeling right now. What I do know is that today Arteta managed him brilliantly. Off at halftime, job done, conserved. That's exactly the right call. Keep him fresh for what's coming, because what's coming matters enormously. Let me give you my final take on all of this, because I want to make sure I land this properly. Today was not just a football match. Today was a statement. It was the kind of performance that reminds you what this Arsenal team can look like when everything clicks, when Saka is fit, when Gyökeres is in form, when the system is right. They are genuinely difficult to stop. They are a team that can hurt anyone. And within that statement, within all that brilliance, was a moment that told an equally important story. Gabriel Jesus, coming on in the easiest possible scenario and producing the worst individual rating of the entire squad. Those two things existing on the same afternoon is not a coincidence. I think it reflects exactly where Arsenal are as a football club right now. The main team, the core, is exceptional, title-worthy even. But the depth, the squad players who are supposed to elevate the team when called upon, That is where the questions still live. And that is what this summer has to fix. Whether it's Jesus or anyone else who isn't contributing at the required level. Arsenal cannot go into next season with the same gaps they currently have, because in the Champions League, in the FA Cup, in the weeks where the schedule gets brutal, you need your squad players to perform, not just fill space, actually perform. Right now, the gap between the starters and the substitutes is too wide. Today proved that clearly. My final stance is this: Arsenal should win the title this season. I believe that. 6 points, 6 games, this form, it's there, it's real. But the bigger project, the one that Arteta is building towards something that lasts, that requires hard decisions this summer about who stays, about who goes, about what this club genuinely needs to become not just title challengers, but consistent title winners. And that conversation starts with the honesty to look at what today showed us, the best of Arsenal and the worst, both happening at the same time. So let me ask you this, and I want a real answer in the comments. Is Gabriel Jesus still an Arsenal player next season? And more importantly, do you think this Arsenal squad right now has what it takes to hold on and win this title? Because I want to know what you think. Drop it below. Let's actually talk about this. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe. There's going to be a lot more this week as the title race develops, and I'll see you in the next one.